Loud explosions and air raid sirens in the dark. Here is Tonya, lying on her back on a camp bed, surrounded by her dirty and battered combat uniform and military hardware. In the corner is a little ukulele and a paperback book. She speaks. There was shelling on the 24th and 25th of February 2022 in Kiev. We went down to the bomb shelter, but soon realised we were either going to have to, 1, live in a bomb shelter for the rest of our lives, 2, get out of Kiev with nothing but a backpack, 3, leave the country with nothing but a suitcase, or 4, fight. They divided us up into small squads and then started handing out guns, cold, hard, heavy guns. We enlisted, Sashko, my husband, and I, on the 25th. They gave us guns on the 26th. It was no nonsense. They taught us to assemble our guns, clean them, prepare them for firing, to be ready for the street battles. But that isn't what happened. There were street battles, yes, but not in our neighbourhood. So instead, we guarded storehouses for several months and had the feeling that we were just going to stand there like human racks to hang the guns on and never do any shooting. They taught us to shoot, trained us to move through populated areas in mop-up operations, things like that, all right there in the storehouses between the pallets and the garages and the parking lots. Tonya sits up on the edge of her bed. It's a mystery to me how I ended up in a mortar unit. I didn't even know what a mortar was. Can you imagine? Our commander, everyone calls him Bat, starts giving us lessons. Our first practice shots with the mortar went straight at the enemy. Nothing could be wasted. Trained or untrained, straight at the enemy. Is it hard to be on the front line? What's hard is no showers. What's hard is finding a soft, normal bed. What's hard is washing clothes. What's hard is finding a fucking washing machine. In the trenches, in combat, I didn't need much. Just something to protect my head. Occasionally, a hot shower. Even a mattress is win-win. You don't need much of anything for happiness. We didn't even live in shacks. We just dug a trench in a cowshed because we knew they'd be bombing the shacks, and they did, constantly. We burrowed into the ground like rats, and that's where we lived, just in a hole in the ground, for 6 months. The hole was a lot smaller than this, but made for 6. We covered the trench with boards, some tin sheets, and then we made more trenches inside the first trench and passages to connect them. And when the shelling began, we'd slip through holes into our secret passages to places that had real concrete slabs over them. Above you, there's earth, then a concrete slab, and on top of that, more earth. Tonya stands and stretches. In a bowl of cold water, she washes herself as best she can, her face under her arms, and then dries herself. How do you go to the toilet? It depends what you want to do. On the front line, you might think you want to go, but you won't be able to go. You squat, and if incoming fire starts, you nip it in and you run. When we were near Chernobyl, we settled into a house with a toilet in an outhouse in the yard. It stood about this high, a wooden seat with a door, and you had to get into this tiny closet to do your business. Don't laugh, it was physically impossible. The door doesn't close, so you're standing with your feet outside. And when we went to the toilet, we always shouted, "Incoming!" And then when we left, we shouted, "Outgoing!" Tonya tries brushing her tangled hair, and then she hears, "Fuck fucking mice. They eat everything. All the food they can get their teeth in, no matter how it's stored. Rubber switches on the radios, gunpowder in the explosives. The only thing that keeps them at bay is empty steel ammunition boxes. Mice will eat you even when you're sleeping, nibbling your fingers. At first we use Velcro to catch them, but they get stuck on it and they die long deaths, constantly squeaking as they die. Poison was worse. They die quickly, but in the trench walls, and then they decompose and they smell. So we'd have to pull down in minutes the walls we'd spent hours building to get rid of the dead mice, and then spend more hours putting the walls back up again. Humane mouse traps, ditto. A chunk of Snickers and the mice go in one by one, and they can't get out. You can catch 100 mice a day and there'll still be just as many to take their place. Does that remind you of Russian troops? It should. The first question Bat asked me, he's my commander now, was, what are your pronouns? Her, I replied. I'm Tonya and I'm non-binary. At first it's strange for people. They're afraid, worried, or they don't take me seriously. They think I might do something bizarre. They carry these old prejudices, stupid rumours and cliches, but once we get down to business in combat, nobody cares about those things anymore. Tonya starts to dress. Combat fatigues, pants, t-shirt, jacket, military greens, camouflaged. My first mission, sorties to the front near Kherson. Bat had to go and he took me. And on my first sortie to the front, I lose my gun. I was so embarrassed. How could I be at the front for the first time without a gun? We rode in on a truck bed, we pulled up, we jumped out, tossed my backpack out, tossed the rifle down, climbed out. Bat tosses his backpack out. Another guy jumps into the truck at the same time. We get mixed up. He takes my gun. They drive off. I start running alongside the truck, kicking the truck, shouting, oi, oi, oi. But they have to keep moving. They can't stop because then everybody will be a target. My gun's in there. My gun's in there. I'm watching it go. Fuck! There was three of us at Kherson. Raccoon, Bat and me. But there weren't enough of us. And then the Transcarpathians joined. Now it's not a country. Transcarpathia is a region. Ukrainians, Hungarians, Romanians, Slovaks and Poles. And let me tell you about mortars. Mortars are a law unto themselves. You need the powder and the charges, under and above. And you've got to put all these in the correct order and then launch the shell. And I'm the one who drops the shell into the tube. There are three of us who can work the Kropiva system. Bat, Jew, his name, not his religion, and me. Bat is a genius with Kropiva. He taught us everything. Kropiva was created specifically for the armed forces of Ukraine, for artillery, for observers. And Bat is an IT nut. He can contact the other IT nuts who develop Kropiva so they can iron out the glitches. Everyone has skills of some kind. Different groups are constantly coming together in this giant puzzle and finding solutions. My partner Sashko serves with me. He's responsible for first aid. Everybody knows we're a couple. Men and women, men and men, women and women, sons and fathers. We're all couples of one sort or another. There is another couple in our squad. Before the war, they were puppeteers. Puppeteers. Me, the theatre director, Sashko, the actor, and two puppeteers. Just give us time and we'll start a roadshow. Before the war, me and Sashko, we made these lovely little shows for children. Such innocent moments. watching the face of a child light up when you make it smile or laugh. We lived for such moments. On the one hand, it feels like we, that's Sashko and me, we put everything on pause in our relationship and for our future plans. But on the other hand, the shared experience that we're going through, it'll stay with us forever. We all become closer by this intense shared experience. Tonya puts on her boots and ties them slowly. We work with three kinds of mortars: the 60mm, the 80mm and the 120. Now the 60s are hardly worth talking about, and there are two types of 60s: the long 60, which at least has some range, and the short 60, literally this big. The 80 is a proper mortar, relatively large and wider kill zone, 120 to 150 feet, range 3.5 kilometres. But the serious weapons start at 120. Everything up to 120 is just a toy, but a 120 is absolute destruction. How does it work? Spotters see the target, an enemy mortar or concentration of enemy forces, and then they crawl, and I mean crawl, through the shit, the mud, the tree roots, the dirt, the used ammunition, the body parts, and then they crawl back and they call HQ. HQ sends out a spotter, or more usually a drone, to look. The drone transmits the coordinates to HQ. HQ checks the coordinates, determines what weapons can reach the target, which can't, and then they decide who will fire, maybe several at the same time. We've already calculated the targets and the coordinates. The drone watches, and it also depends on weather conditions, how well we calculate, key landmarks, temperature of the explosives, temperature of the mortar, range, compass. A lot goes into it. Position, alignment, fire. Zoom. Either way, it's almost impossible to hit something with the first shot. The shell impacts somewhere over there. The drone sees and transmits 300 meters left, 50 feet added. We calculate, recalibrate, and fire again. As a rule, we don't have a direct hit second time either. So we fire a few rounds, hide the launcher under a net, and wait for the next chance to go through it all over again. Near Bakhmut, everything was covered in snow, so we cut up a white sack, and the mortar just looked like a snowdrift, not even visible from the road. And you have to hide. Oh yes, you have to hide. At night in the trenches, we use red lights to see by. That way it's harder for their equipment to spot you. And they'll be looking, especially if the drone overhead has thermal images. You have to be covered with earth so it can't detect you. But in a trench, you're more or less safe. Tonya is almost ready. She drinks coffee from a thermos and unwraps a Snickers bar for breakfast. We had a problem near Bakhmut. No food, big problem. Saved by volunteers. Our friends from the Transcarpathian villages collected food from their families and they sent it. Sashko and I, we get everything by way of the postal service. A box arrives full of stuff. There's this Viennese borscht. You pour it into water, you boil it up, and voila. And for some reason, everyone thinks we're starving out there. True, a few times we thought we were. But as soon as we start to worry, it seems to rain down from the sky like a gift from God, or from sympathetic Westerners like you. Explosives are the biggest problem. Explosives are life and death. If our soldiers are under heavy shelling, we can't return sufficient fire to cover them, or because we don't have sufficient firepower, or we lack the range, and for the most part, we lack shells for the 120. I think about the last few days near Bakhmut, sitting there with 3 shells, constantly retreating, never advancing, dropping back, dropping back, dropping back. And there was I with 3 pathetic little shells I think, how am I going to win the war with 3 shells? Do you know, a good half of Europe's surplus mortar shell stocks have passed through our mortar. France, Italy, Greece, Germany, UK, Denmark, Norway. Each shell has its own characteristics. Target calculations, weight, fuses, powder, dynamics, trajectory. And you have to do this every time. You have to work out individual calculations for specific projectiles. And sometimes these calculations don't exist. Nobody sent the manual, always written in a variety of languages, but never in Ukrainian. We have to do internet searches to see how they work. We first went into battle with a Spanish mortar made in 1952. We are territorial defence, last in line. The good stuff goes to the experienced troops, but they give the rubbish to us. The difference is in the weight. You have to alter all adjustments depending on the weight. And we're also talking about shells from countries where they have different measurements for calculating weight. But ultimately, it's all maths and geometry. Take everything into account, input the data, arrive at conclusion. It may reach its destination, it may not. Our targets, technical equipment, more often than not, crowds of soldiers. Maximum casualties that way. Shrapnel. Enemy soldiers are stupid. Meat for the grinder. But there are occasional smart ones, so you've got to kill them both. It's just that some are easier to kill and others harder. They don't all turn tail and run from us in fear. Say, for example, I'm a Russian soldier. What the hell is going on in my head that would make me go miles from the comfort of my home and my family to some other country just to be hung on a meat hook? Why? It's impossible for me to understand their motivation. They die in droves. It's like they have a death wish. They have this tactic of running right at our trenches. No protective vests, nothing, just running. And when they get right up to us, and we can no longer shoot because we hit our own people, they turn and they run back the way we come, screaming and shouting. So we shoot them in the back. It's like a rifle range at a fairground. In the early days, we've had lots of shells, enemies in tight groups, accurate coordinates. They weren't returning fire in those days. Conditions fantastic for cutting them down like wheat. I don't see the enemy's face when I'm on the front line. I don't see people. I don't see eyes. I don't see terror. I don't see fear. I don't know who they are. We're all just firing at each other. We're a group of killers. The gunner, the mortar commander, the one who delivers the projectile, and me. Who is responsible? All of us? None of us? We don't even know if we killed anyone. Did many go down? Who were they? I don't count. We just do our job. And I don't have any sensation of killing or guilt until we get to those places and we find those people we've been bombarding. And we see the corpses and we see what we've done to these young Russian men. Tonya turns on her phone and does what we all do these days, check emails and social media. This time of year the fields are swamps and you have to drive vehicles through these fields and they get stuck very quickly. And it happened near Kherson, somebody got stuck like that and others came to pull them out. So like sitting ducks, we come under serious fire and there's a lot of people wounded. And the radio operator calls another soldier with a tractor to come and take us out and drag us out. But in his call, he didn't mention he just had both his legs shot off. No legs. But he put a tourniquet on both his own thighs and was still able to call on the radio. They loaded him into a medivac and they said, don't forget his leg. And they put it in separately. A boot on it with tied laces. Tonya finishes tying up her own boots stretches out her own legs in front of her, reflecting on what she's just said. She stands to put on her bulletproof vest. I sometimes hear about criminals sent to the front as punishment, but we don't need fuck-ups on the front line. It's no place for punishment. We had one guy in my first company, I don't want to lie about his age, but he was old. 62 years old. Slept on the floor next to me. I kept thinking I'd wake up and he'd be dead of old age. But he went to defend his homeland. He had a duty, a rank, and there he was, sleeping on the floor, 2-hour-long shifts. And he proved to me over and over and over that still at his age, he was still a badass. And in the end, he was forcibly decommissioned, but he still objected. And then we have good guys, nice guys, decent guys, guys you want to meet your mother with. But you see immediately, this decent guy that you could take home to meet your family should never have been handed a weapon in the first place. You can't handle a gun, can't handle a mortar, can't handle anything. So we send him to PPD, place of permanent dislocation, a desk job or a gopher. At a certain point, this same chap, it was decided an infantry unit needed reinforcements, any reinforcements at all. So he was put on the front line. It was so stupid. This guy was not made for it. Like a huge neon sign hanging over him. This man is not made for war. And he survived. But his right arm was ripped off by a high caliber bullet. See? Have I thought about death? In the Kherson region, we could hear our boys under fire on the radio at a forwarding position, shelled from different directions, but we couldn't do anything. We were helpless. All we could do was listen. Artillery shells can be fired from distances no mortar can reach. And there were two men fighting on that day, a father and a son. And the father, we could hear, the father covered his son with his own body, but he didn't save either of them. And that happened live, there and then. A drone operator was shot up near our compact position, his leg torn off. Waiting medevac, I sat with him for 4 hours while he cried and I sang him nursery rhymes. No, the army didn't turn out to be quite what I expected. When I started, I clung to an idealised concept of heroism. But later I realised they were just people, with complexes, fears and weaknesses. Just people. An army is hundreds of thousands of completely different people. All religions, all genders and orientations, educations, professions, classes. Everyone fights and dies in the same trench. And it's amazing how all these people try to find a common language, and they don't always find it. And sometimes they never find it. But they keep fighting. And of course, I'm afraid something will happen to Sashko. There are times he goes into combat and I stay back at the PPD and I listen on the radio, and when we're together, I can control the situation. I understand what's happening. But I can't influence the situation when we're apart. Only listen to transmissions. And that scares the shit out of me. When we first came back from Kherson to Kiev, I got some leave. I felt like I was drunk, intoxicated, being back in City Street, like I was in some kind of parallel reality. The ordinary people, they can't understand what war is really like. Tonya is now almost ready for combat for her tour, and she puts on a helmet and sunglasses. I'm worried people will get tired of this war, and they'll start to think, oh sure, there's a war going on, but it's not my problem. These days, I feel more comfortable in combat than in City Street in Kiev. I don't know why I'm there in City Street. I forgot who I was. But I do know why I'm there on the front line. I understand. They tried to kill us. We tried to kill them. I tried to kill him. And he tries to kill me. And it's a job. But it doesn't mean I'll come home and start shooting the neighbour because he built an extension without my permission. Sashko and me, we made theatre. Bat was an IT specialist. The Transcarpathians, tractor drivers, chauffeurs, farmers. We even had lawyers. One guy in our platoon was an embroiderer. A fucking embroiderer. Now, he's a widow man. The actor and the actress from the puppet theatre, they've been doing that all their lives, entertaining children. And now they carry guns. And they kill Russian children also with guns. Am I better now than what I was before? War is not an experience that makes you better. It isn't spiritual growth. It's traumatic, it's destructive. On paper you might say you won a battle or a war, but here in your memory there are images you can never erase. And I don't make theatre art anymore. In fact, the artist in me hasn't been present for so long that I'm starting to doubt she'll ever return. But I always carry my little ukulele, even though I can't sing. Ding, 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 ding. Tonya puts down a ukulele and picks up her assault rifle, her instrument now. I communicate less with people, and the deeper I go into this war, the less I want to communicate. I start to forget things. I lose my train of thought. Something here has changed forever. And if someone had told me once upon a time that one day I'd join the army and become a mortar operator, I'd never have believed it. In fact, I'm still surprised that I'm here now. But I don't regret it. Because if it happens again, I'll do the same thing. I regret nothing. Tonya is now ready for combat. She picks up her ragged paperback book, sitting at the end of the bed. What am I reading? All Quiet on the Western Front. Tonya slips the book under her bulletproof vest, holds a rifle across her chest, stands up straight and proud, and says, Slava Ukraini. You can hear a pin drop.